Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We're going to be starting with the first panel today. Before we get started, I had a quick question. How many of you actually like push notifications? How many in the room actually like push notifications? So basically all the people who are sending the notifications are raising their hands, right? So that's a good thing. And how many of you actually click on it? Come on, guys. The average CTRs are way higher. So some of you who are hiding your hands, do click on them. I'm sure you do click on them. And the next session is about the people who actually create all these right experiences via push notifications and all the channels available to you to communicate the right message to you. And we're going to be discussing how they do that. And we are also going to be discussing how they drive retention and stickiness and how they ensure they maximize the LTV for their user base. So we have 4 very interesting people today coming on stage to talk about these 2 topics. And we'll quickly get started with that. The first person I would like to call on stage is leading marketing for a local homegrown ice cream company. And I'd surely recommend everyone should try that. It's called Kind Kones, and it's actually kinder to your body. So basically, if you're eating all those ice creams and getting all those calories in, if you try Kind Kones, maybe you can reduce those calories. So you should definitely try out. And today, to talk about how they go about the customer engagement, we have Ravena coming on stage. Please welcome Ravena Hundal. The next person is from, again, a homegrown and the first unicorn coming out of Malaysia. Which is the first unicorn out of Malaysia? Any guesses here? Anyone in the crowd? Carsome, yes, exactly. So I have Michael, who leads the CRM regionally. Michael Min, please welcome him on stage. The next person is part of this very unique app, who's been leading the growth for this app, which is out of Malaysia and actually serving across the world. So they have these users across geographies, if I'm not wrong. And I would love to welcome Marisha Lakhiani of Mindvalley. She's the Chief Growth Officer. So Mindvalley is a brand out of Malaysia. It is for all the people who want to improve themselves, their skills, whether it comes to their mind, whether it comes to all experiences personal to them. You should definitely check this app out, and it's a homegrown brand again. And finally, the last person I'm going to call on stage is another app which is part of each and every e-commerce company or any of the app you're using on a daily basis. Please welcome Daphne on stage, who is the GM of Atome. And Atome has been doing some amazing work across this part of the world. And finally, my name is Arijeet. I'm the guy who sells all these notifications, and I've been doing this for the past 5 years. And yeah, that's my job, yeah. And my first question is actually for Ravena. So we wanted to understand that Kind Kones, you have to personalize the customer experience for each and every user, right, to make them feel special. Could you share a story as to how you go about doing it? How do you personalize this customer experience for your users?
Sure. So ice cream is, we're in the business of ice cream, right? We're all about creating these moments of happiness and joy. And I believe that ice cream has that ability to evoke such strong emotions, right? And whether we do this through, customizing little personalized, sorry, I just need to gather my thoughts. I think we do this when we have inquiries. I think one of the most important ones, or the ones that is really etched in my heart, is when a mother came to us a few years ago, and she asked us to, very simply just asked us to come about if we could create an ice cream cake for her daughter. And you see, her daughter suffers from severe dairy intolerance. And I think this was the moment that really truly spoke to us, because I'm sorry, I need to catch a breath.
That's okay, Ravena. Take your time.
Yeah. So sorry about that. So, when the mother approached us to create this ice cream cake, I think this deeply resonated with what it is that we do and really encapsulates what it is that Kind Kones does. And it encapsulates the why we do what we do, right? It is to be able to fulfill these little moments of joy. And we didn't have this product. We didn't have an ice cream cake available. And I think, we took this upon ourselves and we created this product and we delivered it to the customer. And this mother comes back to us with a heartfelt gratitude, right? She tells us about that look on her daughter's face because she was able to enjoy a slice of ice cream cake on her birthday. And I think this is one of those moments that really is etched in our hearts because we do this and we are inspired to do this because we are on the right track, right? We are able to create these personalized moments for our customers. And I think that is really one of those things. And this personalization also extends to the brand partnerships that we do. We have collaborated with many brands, and they entrust us with, they entrust us to deliver this customized and personalized experience for their brand. That means they're giving us that opportunity to ensure that they understand that we are able to deliver this service and incorporate their brand and resonates with their customers. And I think that is really what Kind Kones is about.
No, thanks for that. That's a beautiful story, and that's actually a pretty wonderful story, to be honest, in terms of personalization. I'm going to go to Michael now, and my question is, we often hear from leaders that segmentation is the backbone of personalization, right? Like getting the right segment, knowing which people to send what kind of notification, email, and why you should be sending is very important, right? So our question is, isn't it always easy for marketers to segment customers perfectly? And the other part is, what challenges do marketers face when it comes to personalization at scale, and how do you go about solving it?
Yep. Hope you guys don't mind. I got some notes here. I know Arijeet is like full on pressure to do this well, so I'm like, okay. I spent like 20 minutes last night in the bathroom, put some notes down. So hope you don't mind. So I think I'll cover this maybe just two examples. One more immediate and one more, advanced scaling when you're out there doing everything, got a full team doing it full time. So I think from an immediate perspective, when you're first starting out, let's say you're scaling from channel to channel. Let's say you've always been on email, but then your company launched an app, so you wanted to go into push, or your company's goods and services channel. Let's say you went from retail to online, as an example. When you're scaling in that manner, I think one immediate challenge is making sure that your data is usable and clear. So what I mean by that is ensure you have data parity. Let's say the events you fire from, let's say the retail points of sale or your front end platforms like apps and websites. Make sure they're in parity, so they're telling the right thing and the correct thing, right? Because by the time you're doing omni-channel and your data is not in parity, you're gonna get examples of when transactional messages might get sent 24 hours after it's been transacted, as an example. The other example I have is, let's say further on, let's say you have a full team, a full CRM team, and they're doing analytics, right? I think one of the challenges is, how are you going to tie specific behaviors and campaigns to your CLV? I think one of the key challenges is looking at your personalization work in a too broad of a funnel, right? I think we talk a lot about funnels, but at the end of the day, when you see no result from quarter to quarter, as an example, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because once you segment it down into your most valuable customers, you might see a big change in your customer mix, and that might be a result of your initiatives, right? So I think getting to that point is very difficult. You need to sync across all your teams. Your experiments as well need to be on point, right? You can't be all encompassing. I mean, as an example, let's say you have email marketing campaign that goes out, and for some reason your view through conversion is very high, but your click through is not. Let's say it's 0.5%, which is a sad day. But your view-through conversion is very high, and you wonder why. And it could be because, let's say you have an offline sales team that gives them a call right after your email is sent. So in that example, your conversion window is too long and is not enough for you to deliver that value for that segment. So overall, like, it's a big challenge. So you have challenges. First, when you scale, make sure your data is clean and clear. That'll take you 4 months, right? So job security is there, don't worry. And then towards the end, when you got a full team, when you're going to analytics, when you want to start measuring CLV, you'll be very tempted to do it like on a blanket scale, but you shouldn't do that because you're not the only factor driving CLV. You have, your product team, you have engineering, you have how the sales team communicates with your customers, and these are sometimes things you cannot control. So you need to segment it down into customer buckets, whether it be based on monetary values, how frequently they're engaging, or in terms of demographics, and keep a tight lid on it.
Thanks for that, Michael. And I think one important point for all of us to take is that keeping the data clean, right? Because that's the start of the entire journey there and then. So yeah, one thing for everyone who gets a product in place, I think the first part is how do we do the integration and how the events flow in. Is the data clean or not? Because any activity you do on top of that, you may not make any ROI if the data is not good. Now coming to the next question. This question is for Marisha. And Marisha is someone who's been driving growth for Mindvalley for so long. Right? So you have seen stages of personalization in terms of LTV of customers growing from, let's say, year 1 to the year you are in right now. So every company interprets personalization in their own way. So my first part is, what does it mean to you when it comes to Mindvalley? And the other part is in terms of a process, because you guys have done a beautiful job, let's say, for the past 5 years, right? So what is the process you follow, right, from conceptualizing it and then implementing those personalized elements across the life cycle effectively? Yeah, it'd be great to hear. I'm sorry.
But I can't use a mic. So to me, personalization is really about merging art and science into crafting like really relevant experiences for your user, and in a way to help them drive value really fast. So our users come to us as a brand to solve a specific problem, and our job is to solve it as fast as possible for them. So personalization is just to make sure we get them to the finish line as fast as possible. And I like, because I'm brown in Bollywood, I love to dramatize all my examples. But a perfect example is like if you're on a dating app. So if you're on Bumble or Tinder, imagine going on dates and imagine yourself being into like not smoking, personal development, healthy, want someone who's traveled, who's, can speak multiple languages. And then you go on dates with people that smoke, they're rude, not religious at all, don't care about personal development, can't have a proper conversation. And you keep doing that again and again and again, like you're not gonna stay. In like a couple of dates, you're gonna be like, I'm done, this is over, like dating's not for me, I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life. So that's like a dramatized example of what you need to deliver, which is like help someone achieve the goal that they set for themselves. They're coming to you for a specific problem, and they trust in your brand to solve that problem. And if you're not going to be able to do that, you've lost them for good. Now, how do you go about doing that? How we went about doing that is starting off is like you need to have your data, like the foundational layers sorted. So you need to be able to track and understand what is the user behavior, what are they looking to solve, like how are they consuming, frequency, all of that kind of stuff. You need to be able to measure all of that, like even just like what device they're on. Then come up with like user segments and start profiling your users. Once you have those segments nailed, then you come up with a strategy per segment. So once you have the strategy per segment, so you're going to say like, okay, this is how they're going to be onboarded. This is what they care about. This is the job to be done. These are how many pushes I need to send. So once you have that all dialed in, then you use a tool to help you implement as fast as possible. And the beauty about this is like when I speak to companies, they're always trying to get to like level 10. They're always telling me, like I spoke to like one of the most massive pizza companies in Malaysia, and they're like, oh, but like, how do I go about it? It's so hard, and I have to get to level 10. How do I get to level 10? It's like, you don't have to get to level 10. You need to do level 1. Like, you will eventually get to level 10. Just get to level 1 first. So I gave her this example of like just your standard emails. I was like, okay, if you just segment, like I don't even know your business, but if you segment your audience right now, you're going to have people that order vegetarian pizza because they're vegetarian, people that order chicken pizza because they can't eat meat, they can't eat beef. So, and the people that just love beef pizza, like simple 3 segments, right? And imagine if you're vegetarian and you get a beef pizza picture in your email, like that's not going to make you want to order a pizza. So as simple as just saying that this segment prefers this, can I send them this image and tell them they're going to have a pizza in 10 minutes? You've pretty much won your user, right? So it's as simple as that. Like you can start at ground zero, just do level 1, and then eventually build up to level 10.
I have another question there. So I think there were 2 very interesting things you said, right? The first line you said was something I think is actually important for every marketer, is how do you ensure you get to the KPI as fast as you can? Because you said it should be easy. So whatever your business is, let's say if you're a bank, the first thing is you want the people to do the KYC as soon as possible, or you want them to apply for the loan. So too much of personalization, too much of layers may delay it. But then there's another very important point you raised about understanding customers, right? You talked about preferences. Preferences and understanding a customer leads to personalization, right? So how do you at Mindvalley, because I was checking your app out, so how do you try to understand your customers as soon as they enter the app? Do you do certain things around it?
Yeah. So our customers our customers are not complex. We are very complex. So we're very complex because like in my ecosystem, I have a subscription that has like 180 different outcomes. So someone could come in to solve 180 different problems. Then I have high ticket, which is like someone can go deeper and get coaching with like experts. Then you can hire a coach. Then you can actually become a coach. And then you can buy a supplement. And then you can let's do a meditation. So there's like, can you imagine there's like all of these different things that I have to put together for the customer? So basically what we start off with is a quiz. It's like, okay, what is your job to be done? Like, what are the top 3 things that you want to work on? So once they start to identify and narrow it down there, then it's very easy for me to say, okay, I can get you to this goal. So if your goal is like, I want to build muscle, I want to sleep better, I can tell you, okay, this is what I recommend for you as like a personalized learning plan. So if you just do these things, you're going to get to this goal. And then you can go in and change your goal. So you can go in and say, okay, now my next goal is to be a better parent. And then you can add that goal and you can slowly, I basically hold your hand to that goal. And now to make matters even better, I've added an AI. So we basically have Eve AI that just launched. So once you start chatting with it's like an AI coach. Once you start chatting with your coach, the coach will guide you and give you personalized recommendations, kind of like the Whoop coach. Yeah. So kind of just saying that, okay, so if this is what you want to do, we recommend you start with this. Just do this 5 minutes, just do this 10 minutes. And by holding their hand, they basically see value fast and they want to stay in the long run.
No, that sounds really good, and thanks for those points. And actually, for all the marketers, drive to your KPI the fastest, and also understand your customers on the first day itself. So as soon as they come on your platform, which is a website or an app, try to understand who they are, why did they come, why are they there, and what do they want to achieve from your product. You may be e-commerce, bank, any kind of app. I think 2 very relevant points.
It's actually funny how most brands never ask. But like if you look at Trello, you look at all of these big brands, they always have like an onboarding quiz where they ask you what you want to achieve so they can learn your preferences faster.
And you talk about the dating apps, right? They ask you on the first, but some people lie, so that's why you get trolled and catfished.
For those who know, you know.
So yeah, but that's a good example. Now coming to Daphne, and this is a question more around Atome. So with your expansive reach in the buy now, pay later. To be honest, when you talk about buy now, pay later in Southeast Asia, the first company which comes in your head is Atome, because there is no other brand we think of, right?
I'm glad to hear, and I can share a bit more about what we do.
That's the only thing I know, so that's my assumption, but I see a lot of people having the same assumption. And you include customers from individual shoppers, big enterprises. So how do you have different strategies for different kind of customers, B2B, B2C customers? Do you have different strategies in place?
Yeah. So the short answer, Arijeet, is yes, we do have different strategies. But if you like, I can share a bit more. So my name's Daphne. I work for a buy now, pay later startup called Atome. What we do is very simple. We help our end users split their bill, right, into 3 easy interest-free payments. We've expanded that to pay in 6 and pay in 12. And we have now 3 million registered users in Malaysia. with a network of over 9,000 merchant partners. And actually we have segmentation strategies on both sides, the B2B and the B2C, because it's very important. And like what Marisha said, it all starts from that top part of the funnel when you onboard them. We all know this, when people first engage with our brand, they are the most engaged. And they want to know and they want to use us, but if we lose them at that point, they drop off and it's harder to get them back, right? So when I think about segmentation, right, how we do our personalization, I think it's important to understand where our users are in their life cycle, right? So if you want to drive stickiness, to drive CLTV, customer lifetime value, right? So that increases over time, we need to understand their life cycle. And for Atome, because we are a buy now, pay later, we facilitate payments. So I break it out into maybe 3 phases, 3 stages. Pre-purchase, purchased, and churned, right? And then I map my strategies around that. So in the pre-purchase stage, as a fintech service provider and any kind of financial services, there's a KYC. So it gets kind of complex, right? So what that means is you download our app and you can't just use immediately. We need to gather your information. I need your IC details so I can risk profile you, right? So that in itself, there's strategies to get them to take that action. So essentially what we do to personalize the journey is understand the action we want to take people through, right? And to stop them from churning and then get them to stay in that purchased phase. Yeah. I hope that helps.
No, thanks a lot for that. I think that's an interesting one and something, even Marisha shared, right? In terms of knowing the customer on the first stage. And you are actually doing another thing. There's a barrier, right? Before they share the details and they get on the app, they need to do the KYC.
Yeah. So, all right. So I look at it on the customer life cycle, right? So I do my segments, but then the strategies that we come up with to get them to essentially, what are you doing? Cross-sell, upsell, right? To make them, because I want them to buy again. So I want to drive discovery. You either get them to repeat at merchants brands that they've bought from, or you drive discovery of other brands. So 9,000 merchant partners means I have quite a wide variety of brands that I work with across categories, all the way from fashion, beauty, electronics, lifestyle. We even partner with Starbucks, local hypermarkets. So every brand that we choose to work with is also a way to drive either higher ticket or frequency. So there's a strategy around that as well. And then the data that we have, the panelists have all spoken about how data underpins personalization, right? Is the actual behavior. So the behavior that we can see is the purchase behavior, the browsing behavior, the search behavior that shows intent. And then from there, we craft our messaging. Yeah.
No, thanks a lot. That's pretty detailed, and I'm assuming the transactional behavior that also has elements as to where they're buying, what are they purchasing, and then you're accordingly recommending let's say if they're buying clothes, they're probably shopping, paying money for oil or something or the other, right? So that's how you're personalizing the segmentation or the personalization.
Yeah. So it's based on the behavior to try and cross-sell, upsell to drive CLTV. Yeah.
Perfect. So actually pretty good strategy for LTV, and I think that's the core of it, understanding customers, where do they spend the money, especially if you're on BFSI. So understand what do they use your app for, where do they transact, what do they purchase, and then personalizing those experiences. I'm going to come with my next set of questions, and I'm going to start with Ravena again. And there's something very funny my marketing team has written. They've written, with great flavor comes great responsibility. I think they're using our own Merlin AI to come up with these anecdotes. They've also texted me that I forgot to let our amazing speakers introduce themselves. So I'm really sorry. I missed out on that. But I did a somewhat of a decent job in introducing all of you. So we'll talk about it a little later.
Yes. Good job. Thank you.
So, perfect. So, Ravena, with great flavor comes great responsibility. How do you balance the deliciousness of personalization while maintaining your customers' trust, particularly when it comes to health preferences and handling sensitive data?
You know, customer centricity is embedded in every aspect of what we do here in Kind Kones, right? From our hiring process to our daily operations. We prioritize values like friendliness and benevolence and empathy in our staff who are frontlining the outlets, right? And during the hiring process, they undergo training to ensure that they carry these skill sets and that they are able to communicate and the ability to connect with the customer on a more personal level. So during their demos, we assess their ability to connect with the customers on a personal level and also ensure that they embody our brand value, which is being kind. And then we see if they are able to then deliver this exceptional service that we, take pride in. And if you were to come into any of our outlets here in either KL or Singapore, you will be greeted with like a warm hello, instantly making you feel welcomed. And if we notice somebody, celebrating a special occasion or we recognize a familiar face, we like to go above and beyond and just slip in a free treat, whether this is in a form of a free cookie or a free cake. I think this just adds to that moment and makes that moment a little bit more memorable for the patron that is patronizing our outlets. And I think these gestures go a long way to speak to a customer on a more personal level, because at the end of the day, we are serving you ice cream. We need to make you happy, right? And to connect to that customer on a personal level, I think it is really about understanding. So our customers in store also are trained to inquire about certain health preferences, right? Like whether you have certain nut-free or gluten-free allergies that we should be aware of. Thereby, we are able to recommend the proper flavor for you. And these connections are not built in a day, right? These are connections that we have formed and harnessed over a couple of years. That is when our customers believe and trust in us. We have customers who have, dairy intolerance, like I mentioned earlier. We have customers who are diabetics who can confidently walk into our outlets and order one of our keto products, for example, without having to worry about any sort of spikes in their sugar levels. And it is this trust that I think that they have placed in us that allows us to continue to do what it is that we do, right? It reinstates and reinforces that, we are on the right track. And this helps us to further keep doing what it is that we do. And I think our product also speaks volumes, right? We use good ingredients. We use great, our nut milks are made fresh in-house. So I really think at the end of the day, it is about building this trust with the customer. And, whether it is, families or colleagues or whatever, they come into a Kind Kones outlet to have a good time, to share that moment. And we go from just being that brand, we go from being just another brand to becoming their trusted friend when they think of Kind Kones or when they think of ice cream. So I think that's how we, ensure that our customers are, valued.
Thanks for that, Ravena. I actually have... Oh, sorry, Michael, you want to add something?
I was just going to say, if you brought ice cream to sell, because I think everyone here would buy it at this point. You've sold it very well. I will buy 5 pints.
I really wish I did, I mean, if you guys have not tried Kind Kones, please do. We are a plant-based ice cream brand that thrives on using great quality ingredients. So please go and buy it. We're available in also your selected village grocers. So if you haven't, please do.
Or we can ensure we'll give you a discount today, Ravena, if that's okay. We'll start giving discount coupons right at the end of this session. And how many of you have actually already Googled Kind Kones today or tried Kind Kones today? Oh, perfect. There's someone just looking at their show. See? So good marketing. Perfect. So I just had one more question, right? As a sustainable brand, health-friendly brand, does it also become your responsibility to educate people the right way? Because that also adds to your LTV. So just wanted to understand that part.
Yes, for sure. I mean, if I'm being very honest, before I joined Kind Kones, I walked past the outlet just, going like, oh, what is this brand? But once I joined Kind Kones and I was educated, I was given that education that I needed, that we are plant-based. We are, there's no trans fat in our products. We have lower calories. And of course, it's also kinder to our bodies. So, but unfortunately in Malaysia, we are still in that education phase. In Singapore, I think people are a lot more accustomed and are aware about, leading healthier lifestyles. So we are still educating our customers over here.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Marisha, Mindvalley's growth has been phenomenal. And I'm going to read out these questions because I love it how my marketing team drafts them. They're super funny.
It's like bad ChatGPT prompting.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. But they're kind of cool. Sometimes I try to change the question, but then I think they're actually written pretty well. So I'm going to stick to those. So Mindvalley's growth has been phenomenal and has a diverse global user base. How do you ensure personalized learning experiences resonate with such a diverse audience? Yeah, that's actually a very good question.
That's actually a really good question because we can't fall into a trap with personalization. So my customers, while the company is based out of Malaysia, my customers are in 122 different countries. They're everywhere. Okay, so now we can go to different levels of personalization, right? So one level that I want to talk about is definitely languages. So like every one of us is bilingual. Okay, like everyone can speak two languages or more. And there's a lot of people in the world that only speak French and French is more native and they can't speak English well, right? And the same Spanish. Another massive language is German. So we have localized our platform into these languages, which means there's some cultural nuances that we have to pay attention to. Even like there's some words that don't translate in those languages, there's like cultural references that you can and cannot make. So there's that level of personalization, right? Which is something that we want to do because we want to cater to everyone. But then we can go a layer deeper where we can actually fall into a trap where, for example, like one of our massive regions is Latam, and we can only translate everything and dub everything into one kind of Spanish dialect. But every country in the Latam region has a different dialect. So I love reading customer emails. It's like part-time hobby. So everyone writes to me and they're like, but that's not my dialect. Like, you're using wrong Spanish. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I can cater to every single person, but does that even make business sense? Right? So there's a line that you need to draw with how much personalization makes sense for your business and how much is just unnecessary. Do you really want to cater to everyone? Do you really want to have like a one-on-one conversation and try to please everyone in building your business? So I think that's some nuances that you got to pay attention to. But for us, it does make sense to personalize in terms of cultural nuances, in terms of languages, because we do want to cater to a global audience, but not to a degree where I'm like catering to dialects,
Yeah, can I just add? So you're absolutely right, because when people think personalization, they're like one-to-one. But actually at Atome, we do one-to-few, right? So your broadcasting is like one-to-many, right? That's like spray and pray. We don't do that. But the effort and potentially the cost that takes you to get to a one-to-one, sometimes the incremental returns it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I mean, there is a cost to personalization. So like, for example, like every user that I have to maintain on the platform, there's a cost to maintain that user. Translate everything, nuances, dub all the quests, like every single, my quest is my program. So dub all my programs, like every experience has to be dubbed and customized. Like in some cases, it makes a lot of sense. In some cases, no,
And I had a question, right? So since you're serving so many countries, and especially even in Malaysia, it'll be relevant because you'll always have an app sending in Malay and English, or maybe in Mandarin as well in certain cases. But for you, I'm assuming your marketers wouldn't be bilingual, right? They would be people speaking one language. So are you using a software or a technology to?
Yeah. So we use so I have a localized team and I have one person per market. My team is crazy lean. So I have one person per market that can speak the language, so they can like validate if it makes sense, right? And they also know the cultural nuances for the market, because that's very, very important. There's a lot of sensitivities that you got to pay attention to. But then we use like dubbing agencies where they dub it, they do premium dubbing. We're also dabbling with AI dubbing. So there's a lot of like tricks that you can play with. But there definitely needs to be one person that can audit everything to make sure that everything is still up to standard. Yeah.
Perfect. So I think one point we can take away is over-personalization is also not required. So if you go too deep into it, then you can just get into
just
a
gonna
loop.
know where to draw the line.
Fair enough. I'm going to come to Daphne now. Daphne, what are some of the best practices or pointers that one should keep in mind when thinking about a personalization strategy?
I feel like I should just summarize the cliff notes from everything that has been spoken here today. High level, I would say personalization, right audience, right message, right time. Okay, bye, I'm done. No, I'm just joking. So if we break it down, the right audience part is knowing who you're talking to, and that's where the data comes in, right? Or you ask. Yes, ask, do a survey. It may not even be upfront, but at any point you can say, tell us a bit more about yourself. Let us give you a better experience, any point. So it's who are you talking to, right message, what are you saying, right? And we can be as empathetic as we want to be, but sometimes the best way to do it is to test. You never know, right? So who are you talking to? What are you saying? And when and where are you saying it, right? Because different channels also have different performance. And different channels have different performance for different messaging for different audience.
Perfect. So I would actually give it back to Daphne to explain what the takeaway is in one. So I'm assuming it's a lot of A/B testing and understanding the customers simply, and let the AI do its job when it comes to understanding, let's say, certain nuances like time to send and all those channel preferences.
Okay. Yeah. Let me talk about MoEngage then, since
Perfect.
we are a user.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rob did the demo just now, and he showed you what a flow is, right? So, and I then talked about how we do our customer lifecycle segmentation, and for those who haven't purchased, maybe they've registered, but I need to get them over to make a conversion. We've created a flow for that, and we've automated it. So anytime someone has registered, there's a few criteria. Buy now, pay later, yeah? Registered, done a KYC, has an approved credit line. Because it's not, you don't just register and then get access. So once I have these new guys and they haven't made a first purchase, we've created an automated flow. You go into the flow, and at different intervals, right, we send different messaging. We do have a new user voucher that we then use to try and convert them. But the messaging at the different points is a bit, again, the urgency is different. We use different channels, own channels. We try to see, like, gender, you can split by gender. Males, I push maybe electronics a bit more, and then female, you push beauty. Yeah, so, and then at any one point, when the people who go into the flow have made a conversion, they're out, right? And then they go into our regular comms, for instance. I can't take the full credit. The team that has set it up and brainstormed it is sitting at that table, right? But that's just an example of how we try and automate and get people through the funnel.
Thanks a lot for that, Daphne. And anyone who has any questions on creating these onboarding journeys, let's say 30 to 60 days, 60 to 180 day journeys, you can obviously ask our speakers later. You can also approach that desk, because those are some of the amazing people setting it up for Atome in Malaysia. I'm going to come to Michael now. And Michael, Carsome is very data driven, right? We've been working with you for long, so we've understood how you guys take your actions, how do you create your strategies. In your role, what metrics do you focus on to assess the effectiveness of all your personalizations, and how do they impact the future strategies you were about creating? Yeah.
again, I also feel like I'll be repeating many of the things we've all said previously, but I think to make this useful, I think I'll break it down to 3 parts, right? So one will be immediate metrics. Metrics you can measure within the same day, right? So that's engagement, that's conversion. That'll tell you if you're at the right time and if you're over segmenting or under segmenting for a particular audience or someone in a specific part of their life cycle. So that's immediate. That's things you can kind of get feedback on the spot. More long term, you're going to be looking at CLV ideally, or if you don't look at CLV, you can just napkin math it across particular segment groups. I think defining segments is a very difficult task. It's many of the things we talk about actually is the good 20% of work, whereas the 80% of work is just discussions, fist fights with the product and tech team, justifying investment costs, right? So let's say you get all of that out of the way, then you want to get into analytics, you want to get into the tracking CLV. I think that's more long term. You can definitely get started on this depending on how long your sales cycles are. Let's say e-com, you can probably get it done within a quarter. Maybe if you're selling houses or cars, could be over a year, right? I think those are the 2 metrics, but there's kind of a third in between where for us as marketers, we need to also assess how much time we're investing into setting up individual personalized experiences, right? So if you ever find yourselves like being stuck on one ticket for one journey for a segment, and the reasoning is because you need like 5 different data points from the data team, or the product team has made changes that you didn't know about that spans across the 2/3 of the funnel, then that's not a good use of your time, because at the end of the day, testing is very, very important, and it's a metric that we all should track, right? So I know we're not selling Jira here, but Jira can track your time for you, right? So if it gets above a certain level, don't fall prey into the sunk cost fallacy. Just drop it and revisit it later when things are a little bit more stable, let's say with your dependencies or with the market, etc. So that's the third metric, where you want to ensure that you're rolling out tests as fast as possible and adapting.
Michael, just one more question here in terms of, let's say, how does it impact the future strategies, right? Let's say if you see a certain key metrics going down, probably you want to change them over. So how do you restructure your strategy around that?
So I think testing is super, super important because it'll give you feedback on the future. Wow. What I mean by that is, let's say you don't have an event or a data point that you require to do what you want to do, right? There's a point I'll get to a little bit later as well, but I think you don't have to wait for things if you don't have to. You can always work with people who can query, if you have access to Amplitude, or if you can query the actual, database, whether it be, a copy of yesterday's data tables or, prod tables, God forbid, you're querying that and, that's terrible. Don't do that. If you can make something similar, you don't have to wait. You can just go ahead, make a call, get somebody to write a script, pump it out in an hour, and then just test it. Because at the end of the day, if you wait for everything, nothing's gonna happen.
Thanks for that, Michael. I'm gonna get back to Daphne here again. Daphne, I'm gonna skip the first part of the question because
Sure.
we've actually talked about some of those items already. So the second part is interesting. So as technologies continues to evolve, what new opportunities do you see for driving retention and also maximizing CLTV through personalized engagement in the future? And you can probably talk about, from an Atome point of view, how do you see your future in customer engagement and retention?
This is a new question that you didn't send to me beforehand. But I'm ready. Okay.
This is under your name, so I didn't change the name, I swear.
Okay. Atome launched in Malaysia in 2021. So 2021, 22, 23, 24. We're into year 4 now. So what this means is, I would say that we are jogging right now. If we were learning to crawl, walk, right? And then we're not even running yet. I feel there's a long way to go. So the product itself, the feedback that we've received from both our merchant and users is that it is pretty streamlined and easy to use, which we are happy about, but we want to continue to personalize. In our app right now, if any of you are users, we have one section that recommends our brand partners based on your behavior, but that is but one. So I would say that for Atome, where we want to get to is where when Marisha comes to our app, it's completely personalized for her. When Ravena comes, it looks totally different. When Michael comes, totally different. But again, that requires a lot of product development effort, and then you phase it, right? But that's where we would like to get to. Yep.
And just one more question here, right? We see it, and again, this is not in the question, but I'm adding on to it, so don't blame me for that. But this is something I've always find it very interesting, like because across roles, we are told to use generational AI right now, right? So
Yep.
I want to understand, have you guys already started, because I think Marisha talked about the chatbot, right? Which can understand what user preferences are for Mindvalley. But let's say in your case, how you planning to use generational AI in the future let's say help with your personalizations or marketing or making a marketer's job easy?
Okay, I can share with you today, I know my customer service team is working on a chatbot that leverages AI, right? That's one very basic way to do it. We have a customer service team, and then they get queries, and then we respond. So that's part of automation, right? On the creative side of things, we are using like Midjourney, right? I haven't done a photo shoot in so long. I miss it. But it works, it looks quite real. We churn out creative so much faster. My creative team is so lean. That's just an example. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, and thanks for answering that question, even though it was out of box. So I'm gonna go to Marisha next. Marisha, what I want to ask you is, customers love to feel special and loved, and I think we talked about over-personalization already. Over-personalization can make them feel overwhelmed or even creepy, outright creepy actually sometimes, because sometimes we're thinking about it, and suddenly there's a notification or an ad, right? And all of us question that.
Where do you shop?
I Lazada, Shopee. I hope there's
I'm
nobody
a
from
huge
those
Shopee fan.
companies. Yeah. Perfect. So again, how do you deliver these experiences without breaking those barriers? Because again, those are thin lines, and I think some of it you captured when you talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
But let's say in terms of delivering it, and maybe you can add on to like how you practicing the Gen AI part in your company, especially from a marketing point of view.
Yeah, okay, so how not to be creepy to your customers, right? Level one is that you need to make sure your personalization is necessary and relevant, okay? Like, it sounds so simple, but it's actually really complex, okay? But just another dramatic example. So imagine you're using Netflix, and Netflix never even uses your name. So they never say, hey, Marisha, welcome to the platform. But imagine if they said, hey, Marisha, weight and age. Like, that's creepy, and it's completely unnecessary. So all Netflix needs to do to be relevant is just to give me the movies that I want to watch. Like, understand my preferences. If I hate horror, don't show me horror movies. As simple as that. So it's about really understanding what is necessary that will make the customer's experience better, and just doing that and not trying to overcomplicate it. So that's one. Okay, number two is about, I think I touched on it as well, which is about like not trying to get overburdened with trying to get to level 10. It's a progressive thing. So you need to put level 1 out, progressively build on the user profiling and the segmentation, and then build better personalization strategies. It happens over time. Don't try to rush it and get to level 10, right? Because that will appear creepy. So if you just do it over time, you will start to do it better, and the customers will start to engage with you better. So that's number 2. And then number 3 would 100% be about giving ownership to the user. So as customers, we love having full control and love having ownership, right? So it's very important to ask customers how do they like to be communicated with, right? So like, for example, I have a user dashboard. And I told you how complex my business is. So user dashboard that allows customers to choose, do you want to receive emails about events? Yes, no. Do you want to receive push? Do you want to receive communication about free events? You know, this, that. So they get to choose. And then based on that, like their whole communication is personalized to how they like it. And then they can go in and toggle on and off. They can say, I don't want to receive daily emails. I want to receive weekly emails. Like whatever they decide, they get. So it's really giving the ownership to the user, and because that makes them feel a deeper level of trust with you versus like throwing everything at them, right? So I think those three things. And what was the second question?
My last question was this similar what I asked Daphne earlier. Like, how are you adding Gen AI to your personalization? Are you practicing a few things, or what elements are you adding over there?
So right now, I mean, I think a lot of people underestimate onboarding, which is what Daphne spoke about. Like, onboarding can literally, that single one thing can have like a 30% impact on your retention. So if you don't have a great first date, you are never going to have any second date. So you always have to pay attention to like that one thing, right? And it's so like overlooked, it's insane. But what we're trying to do right now is that the way we're using AI, so we already have like an AI customer support where, you know, it can guide you. I'm doing like crazy shit with AI. So that's one thing. I actually dropped my CPMs on advertising by 72%. I get like cheap ad space utilizing AI. So I use AI to respond to comments and on my ads, and they share links, they share insights, they respond to customer queries, they direct people to the right pages and everything. And I've dropped my CPMs by 74%, which is like, when I was recently in a conference in Dubai and I was speaking about it and people were like mind blown. I also have the AI coach where I'm hand holding a customer to the finish lines to make sure that they're completing what I need them to complete. They are seeing value every step of the way. I ask them questions about like, did you sleep better tonight? How did you feel about that lesson? Are you seeing results? Now what I'm also building is I'm building like a transformational model. So I can actually tell you, how have you grown in the last 7 days or 30 days? So you can, was actually like, they have to check into like put in some markers into it, and we can even plug into your wellness app, so like into your Apple Watch, and it can pull some health markers and tell you, okay, the work that you're doing is actually impacting you in this way. So that's kind of like a few ways we're using it.
No, thanks a lot for that. And I have one more question here. So again, this is not part of what the marketing shared with me, but you told me to ask you all the tough questions. So every company has different ways to track retention, right? So, and every company also scorecards their users. So every company knows who's their best users, who are the users you may lose, users who may uninstall or probably have uninstalled, right? So I understand your strategies, let's say for all the new users. I understand your strategies for the users who are coming in. You check with them. How was the course? How's it going? Are they adopting to it? Do they want a few changes? But like, how do you personalize for people who have stopped interacting after doing a course? So what is the strategy you go after? Because that's a very interesting part of how do you get back by doing personalization and also not being creepy.
Yeah, so it's very natural for e-learning. So e-learning, not everyone's learning every single day. Although we think in our head, like, yeah, for sure, our customers love our app. They're going to be on it every day. That's not true. So they'll maybe do a course and then they'll fall off the bandwagon, and then they're like, oh my God, I want to work on this again. They come back. So usually what we do is we don't try to, we have users based on like, okay, high value, medium value, like the ones that are most engaged, ones that are least engaged. And if you're most engaged, we actually leave you alone. We actually don't try to interrupt your flow. We're like, you got it going, you do your thing, like you're doing good. And then when they start to fall off, we try to remind them a little more. And that's where we start to maybe send you the email reminders. We don't just rely on push. We might send you email reminders, we might send you SMS reminders. We might recommend something that we feel will help you accelerate your results. So for example, if you said health and fitness, and we have a free health and fitness summit happening right now, we'll tell you, okay, hey, this event we think is going to be highly relevant for you because of XYZ reasons. And then get you to do at least, like our goal is to get you to come back to at least do 5 or 10 minutes of learning. Like just small steps, not try to like throw everything at you. And then try to celebrate your wins. So that we've developed, we've done the streak model now, we've just launched it. So every time you have a couple of streaks, we celebrate your wins. And I think one thing that we do for in terms for retention that's worked really well for us is community. So we're very big on community. Like one of the driving forces is that when you do something and you celebrate in the community and you say, I just finished we have a routine called 10x. So it's like, I just finished my 10x routine, and everyone's like cheering you on, celebrating you, hearts, likes, like, you know, proud of you and everything. And that gives you the momentum to continue. So it's all of these little things that are built into the ecosystem that customers don't realize, but it's designed to keep them more motivated.
Well, thanks for that. And I think community also increases loyalty within the app, because when people see other people congratulating on probably doing 100 days, 150 days in a row, completing the course or a certain milestone, I know people feel happy when others congratulate you. And, you know, talking about community, I'm going to go to my next question. And Ravena, this is my last question for you today. And I'm sure Kind Kones is also a company which would be heavily focused on communities, right? For you, community is important because community would spread the word. They would talk about how people use your brand, how people like your ice creams, how they actually help them, right? And you gave a few examples as well. So my question is, how do you decide your perfect scoop timing for your campaigns?
I think Daphne touched on this earlier as well. It's really about timing is paramount, right? We want to seize that moment, don't let it like melt away, and really deliver that perfect scoop at the right time, right? So for us, we take customer feedback, we dissect it, and we also have conversations with, of course, our product development team, and we try and find that sweet spot of launching something new, whether this is a new flavor or a new brand collaboration. We find out what exactly, oh gosh, my phone is ringing, how rude. We find out exactly when is the right time to launch something. So, for example, you know, at some point last year, we had a lot of requests to create a mint chocolate chip flavor. And we thought, okay, it was something we could do, and we thought it would tie in perfectly with the Christmas season. I think, you know, mint chocolate chip really embodies that essence of Christmas. So we did just that. We launched it for Christmas. And similarly, for the new year, we wanted to touch and resonate on the sentiment of new year, new me, you know, healthy living, gotta be kinder to our bodies. So we partnered with a Malaysian superfood brand, Purely Bee, and we launched a superfood ice cream, and we called it Rainforest Delight. Now, this ice cream was made with tiger milk mushroom, which is an immunity booster. It was so well received because I think of the timing that we released it. So essentially, I think it really comes down to what our customer expectations are, you know, seasonal relevance, and really finding the sweet spot.
Thanks for that, Ravena. And I'm going to ask you the flavor you want to recommend to everyone in the audience in the closing thoughts, though. So I'm going to, in the closing thoughts, right after Michael's question. So, Michael, to close this session, what are your thoughts on marketers? What should marketers avoid when it comes to over-personalization?
Okay, I think this is where I'm gonna probably like get Sarah a little bit riled up. But my first item here on the list is don't depend on automation, right? I think it's similar to what I mentioned before. You know, despite automation being fantastic, I think if you wait for things to be ready, right, not from MoEngage's end, but more from internally, right? You know, are your user attributes ready? Are they pushing it correctly? You know, is this feature you asked for in UAT? Like, you don't have to wait for this. Just query it, make a benchmark, discount that by 40%, and just run with it. And if it hits it, you have justification, right? You bring this to your product guys, they'll be like, wow, okay, you actually put in work. And yes, you say, yeah, I do work. That's my job. Yeah. So that's the way you would approach it. So I think my first thing to avoid when you're doing personalization is to avoid automation, right? So don't rely too much on it. Once you've proven it, you've pushed it to product and data teams, then you can automate it, right? And then, you know, Sarab's happy because, you know, he gets paid. So be good. The second one is if you don't do enough testing, very similar to the first point, but very different in its own regard. If you don't do enough, you don't know. Like, you know, it's all theory, right? Like everyone can say, oh, you know, we don't have any issues bringing users to this feature on our website, which is like 5 layers deep. All right, and then the product guy might say, oh yeah, it's because we have big red buttons here and there, but it's not the case, right? So you do need always to test, like whether it be on per channel basis or across the multiple channels, and in conjunction with things that are on your assets, right? Let's say if it's triggered by an on-page event, right? You need to make sure that's working. I recommend, you guys aim for at least, 3 or 4 A/B tests, whatever you're testing on a given platform. Make sure it's smart. Make sure it's not all-encompassing. Otherwise, your results won't make sense, right? If it's too broad, you're going to be hitting, incredible view-through conversions, maybe even incredible click-through rate, but then no click-through conversions. So you'd have to make sure that, you test, but you have to maintain a balance. Keep it, you want to test in points, essentially. Yeah, you want to test in points. And I think the third one, I'm going to give Gupshup some love here. You need to evolve with customer needs, right? So I think that's really, really important. I think all of us started marketing apps, I think, right? And we all have experience with marketing apps, like from 10 years ago. I don't know if you guys remember, but 10 years ago, everything had an app, like everything. It was ridiculous. Like they don't even push websites to you. It was just install this app, install this app, install this app. So I naturally grew up, learning a lot about mobile, learning about push, right? So, but now it's 10 years past and customer needs have changed. We now have the ability to reach users that are not on your app, right? So channels like WhatsApp is getting more and more important. And if you take a look at markets like the US, China, and India, they're quite far ahead in terms of what companies are willing to provide through non-first party channels, right? So there's many examples. You can do it online, but you can even order like e-com stuff like shampoo, do a search, all on through WhatsApp. You don't need to install the app. You don't need to visit a website. So these are all behaviors. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to go and start saying, hey, we got to pay for WhatsApp now and buy MoEngage. It's a nice tool, all right? But get Gupshup to sign on. Yeah, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, look at your demographic. And I think someone mentioned, where are your customers coming into? What are your engagement rates on customer service channels like WhatsApp? And make a call. All right, listen, out of our X net worth customers, Y% are communicating on WhatsApp. I think we can test it, right? And you don't need to go full on. Again, you don't need to wait for automation. Start with a number, just test it, and get data, right? And then you can build on that. There are lots of documentation online now that help you evolve with the times. Sadly to say, I think for most of us, nothing we do is original. Someone's already done it. And a smarter guy somewhere has documented it, so we can take advantage of that.
Thanks for that, and that was a good anecdote at the end. Yeah, we should. It's good to learn from others as well. And we've come to the end of our session, so it'll be great if all of you can share one closing thought for the audience to take away. Maybe Daphne, we can start with you.
Closing thought on personalization, specifically.
Or stickiness,
Or
retention,
stickiness.
or anything you want the people to take away in terms of customer engagement.
Try that mint chocolate. No, I'm just kidding. I think in whatever I do, right, I tend to start with what I'm trying to achieve and then work backwards. And personalization is one way to achieve one of our goals, right? So I'm just going to start with that. Like really, I always think about what we're trying to achieve and then the best way to get there.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And Marisha, over to you. And you also add one course you would want people to do on Mindvalley. So,
Course that I want people to do.
yeah, you should add that as well.
So one of my favorite courses on Mindvalley is Lifebook. It's basically like auditing your life in like 12 different categories, and it's insane. So when I first did it, I wrote down like goals that I want to achieve. So I wanted to be like a CMO that had a 6-pack. I wanted to have a property. I wanted to, like have like a fitness regimen and like all of these different crazy shit. And like, I kid you not, out of 12 categories, like 70% of what I wrote down is like real. So I really like that because it allows you to think of your life on steroids, because usually when you plan your goals, you're just setting like smart goals, and it's not really inspiring. But when you get into the crux of it, like, why do you want that goal? What is the motivation? And is that really your goal? Because a lot of times we think our goal is our goal, but it's actually like a societal goal, or it's from our parents, or it's from like conditioning. So I think that that was one of like my life-changing courses. And leaving someone with an anecdote, just a takeaway. I think like one thing that's really underrated is a post-it practice. Okay, so I actually taught this to McDonald's, but it's a really cool thing to do with your team because usually we always assume we understand our customers. But what you should do is gather your team together and actually use post-its and kind of map out their journey. And if you start mapping out their journey, you're actually going to notice that we're probably doing a lot more than we should be doing. And there's also a thing called subtract. So I don't know if you guys read the book, but the best marketing is not adding, it's actually subtracting. So if you go and try this method, think about what can you subtract from what you're already doing, because that's how you get more effective at what you're doing.
Perfect. Over to you, Ravena, and you also let us know the favorite flavor which people should be trying.
So I'll go ahead straight into the takeaway first. I think for us at Kind Kones to really drive customer stickiness, it is to ensure that our customers know that they are at the heart and soul in everything that we do. And in order to do that, we've got to ensure that we stay fresh, we stay relevant. And by doing that, to achieve that, we have to introduce new flavors and cool collaborations to really keep our customers engaged and give them something to look forward to. And I'm just going to leave you with the flavor that I think everyone in this room should at least try once in your life is almond brittle fudge. And you can thank me later.
Thank you for that. And Michael, over to you. You can say buy MoEngage. I think that's also
wow, okay, all right. I'm sure there's coupon codes for MoEngage, limited to the first-time customers and limited to 2% discounts.
100%. AWS credits, hopefully. So yeah. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot for this amazing session, speakers. And sorry I didn't introduce you all or didn't let you introduce yourselves at the start. So my bad. And our speakers would be there in and around throughout the day. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to approach them and ask those questions. Yeah. Thank you.